the 29th of October 2025. Before we begin, I must read the webcasting introduction. I would like to remind everyone that this meeting will be filmed live or recorded and uploaded to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. So the meeting has started, sorry.
Yes, sorry, we've got an interest.
Okay. Therefore, by participating in this meeting, you are consenting to being filmed and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings. If any public speakers on MS Teams do not wish to have their image captured, they should ensure that the video setting throughout the meeting is turned off and set to audio only. Members and public speakers are reminded to turn on their microphones before speaking and turn them off when they have finished. Committees, if you're in agreement, as I have no Vice Chairman, I'd like to nominate Councillor Richard Bassett to take place with my Vice Chairman. I'm in agreement? Thank you. Right, good evening. My name's Councillor Stephen Heather. I'm the chairman for tonight's meeting. To my left is Mohammed Rahman from the Planning Department, and to his left is Amanda Apcar from our legal representative. To my right is now my Vice Chairman, Councillor Richard Bassett. To his right from Democratic Services is Sharina Shani, and to her right is Laura Kerman, also Democratic Services, and to the far right, looking after the webcasting, is Matt Picking. Advice to public and speakers attending. You should have been briefed, public speakers, you should have been briefed by Democratic Services before you come in. I will remind you again at this point that you've got 3 minutes to state your case. Again, turn your microphone on before you start and turn it off when you're finished. Ward members are not allowed to vote on planning issues, so we have substitute members. So you'll see people crossing the floor every now and again. Apologies for absence.
We've received apologies from Councillor Lyon and Councillor Bromwich.
Thank you. Substitute members?
So substitutions for the meeting are Councillor H. Whitbread for Councillor Lyon, Councillor L. Morgan for Councillor Bromwich. For item 8, Councillor Lucas will be substituting for Councillor Matthews, and for items 10 and 11, Councillor G. Wiskin will be substituting for Councillor W. Kaufman.
Thank you. Are there any declarations of interest, members? Councillor Holly Whitbread.
Thank you, Chairman. I have a few this evening. So on item number 7, it's a non-pecuniary interest, but I live right on the other side of Stonnards Hill. Number 8, just declaring a non-pecuniary interest, as I am a member of the Cabinet, but it's not within my portfolio. And then 9 and 10 as the former Cabinet member for housing, again, not in my current portfolio, so just non-pecuniary. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Matthews.
Thank you, Chair. Also non-pecuniary, but for item 8, it is within my portfolio, so I will cross the floor.
Thank you. Did I see a hand come up somewhere? Councillor Whitehouse.
Thanks, Tony. It seems to appropriate to declare a non-pecuniary interest in item 7 because I'm a relative and ward colleague of Councillor Janet Whitehouse, who made a representation.
Thank you. Right, thank you, members. With your permission, I propose to move item 8 to become the first item on the agenda and item 7 to become the second. Reason the substitute member has got pressing engagement elsewhere. So if you agree with that, thank you. Substitute members, would you like to substitute? Oh, sorry, I forgot about the minutes. Can I agree the minutes of the 17th of September?
Agree.
Right, music starts if you want to change places. Thank you. So the first item on the agenda then is EPF stroke 1680 stroke 25 Northfield Airfield, Merling Way, on pages 21 to 27 of your agenda. And to take us through this is Suki on Teams.
Thank you, Chairman. Before I begin my presentation, can I just get you to confirm that you can hear me clearly?
Yep.
Thank you. Members should note two updates to the officer report. Firstly, that Qualis has submitted further technical information concerning surface water disposal, which has been reviewed and found acceptable by the Council's flood risk engineer. Accordingly, condition 3 on page 26 of the agenda has been amended to read as follows. The development shall be carried out in accordance with the submitted surface water drainage technical note prepared by Elliott Wood Partnership Limited, unless otherwise agreed in writing by the local planning authority. Secondly, the Parish Council was reconsulted following the receipt of additional information. Members will have received the full set of comments via email from Democratic Services. However, I will also summarise the key points for the record. The Parish Council acknowledges that the application relates to a 2.3 hectare extension intended to provide additional market parking. Nevertheless, it emphasises the direct relationship between this expansion and potential increases in vehicle numbers, along with consequent highway impacts. The Council cautions that it would be irresponsible not to fully assess these transport implications, particularly given existing pressures on the local road network. Furthermore, the Parish Council notes that any reduction in the size of the market will not immediately translate into fewer vehicle movements, as behavioural and operational changes will take time to manifest. Current mitigation measures, such as additional signage, are viewed as insufficient to alleviate congestion, especially at Keynes Lane roundabout, which remains significant concern for residents and road users alike. In addition, the Parish Council considers the proposed 5-year temporary permission to be excessive, suggested instead a shorter period of 2 to 3 years to follow for a timelier review and reassessment. Aside from these additional comments, the Parish Council maintains its original objection to the proposal as detailed on page 23 of this agenda. This application seeks permission for the change of use for the land into parking for and ancillary uses associated with Northfield Market for a temporary period of 5 years. You can see the application site in red in the shape of a cheese knife outlined in red, both on the plan and aerial Google image. The site is located on land allocated for employment use. This application is before members today as it's a major application on council-owned land. The Northfield Outdoor Market has been in operation for over 20 years and takes place from 8 AM to 4 PM every Saturday and Bank Holiday Monday. The blue line indicates the lawful area of the market as granted under EPF 2112 of 19. The green line area shows the proposed parking area outside of the certificate area. The yellow area indicates the permitted market parking area inside the certificate area. The red line shows the area of the land sold by the council to a data centre operator. This slide shows the full extent of the proposed market. The red line shows the total parking area, which is 4.7 hectares. The green line shows the 2.3 hectare proposed trading area. Operational details remain unchanged from the current situation. Parking will occur only on Saturdays and bank holidays. Access will be via Gate A and traffic will be stewarded. The temporary visual impact of the car parking is considered acceptable in the context of a working airfield. A traffic management plan was developed with Essex County Council Highways in 2024 to address traffic issues, which included introducing traffic orders, creating an internal access road for residents and local businesses so that Vicarage Lane, Church Lane and the surrounding residential roads would be closed to market traffic to prevent disruption. All staff directing traffic within and around the market have been Community Safety Accreditation Scheme vetted. In summary, the existing access and traffic management arrangements are to remain unchanged. The number of market stalls selling wares will be reduced by around 31%, while the parking will be reduced by only 9.6%. Essex County Council Highways have raised no objections. Approval will support the continued operation of the market. The proposal aligns with the local plan and North Weald master plan, and the temporary permission provides a 5-year monitoring opportunity. The officer recommendation is therefore approval subject to conditions. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. We have two public speakers on this item. The first is the parish clerk, Sue DeLuca, on Teams from Northfield Parish Council.
Thank you, Chairman, and good evening, members. I must first start by saying that Northfield Bassett Parish Council is generally supportive of the market and understands the financial benefit it brings to the District Council. However, the financial needs of EFDC should not override the importance of making sound planning decisions. This application is seemingly being rushed through so as to ensure the future of the market is secured for financial reasons. However, the Parish Council asks this committee to consider the following points, which are crucial to ensure not just the future of the market, but the successful future of the market. Reducing the size of the market will not in itself reduce the number of visitors. This is something that would take a considerable amount of time to bed in. In the meantime, we ask that this committee question how will this be managed to ensure vehicles are not waiting on local roads if the car park is full. This has not been adequately addressed by the applicant. The applicant argues traffic levels will not increase, nor can this be managed within the airfield, and will not adversely affect the wider highway network. Most people who happen to visit the airfield on a Saturday know that the traffic levels already negatively affect the wider highway network. And whilst we accept some efforts have been made to try and fully resolve this by the market operator, in reality it remains wholly unresolved. A statement on the North Weald Market website dated September 26, 2025 and stated as being by the North Weald Market team states that they are delighted to announce that with the help of Epping Forest District Council, we now have a plan that secures the long-term future of the market with a new parking area available from January 2026. The stores will remain in the same location, but the car park setup will be a little different. Not only does this statement preempt the outcome of this planning application, but more importantly, it does not identify that there will be a reduction of 31% in market stalls and implies it will remain the same. This must be rectified. On Saturday, you will find Junction 7 of the M11 roundabout. It is congested with market traffic. The A414 between Harlow and North Weald is solid with cars visiting the market, and local businesses continue to lose trade as a result of this traffic. If you fail to tell people the market is reducing in size, the same number of vehicles will come, but with a 9.6% reduction in parking spaces, this could cause utter chaos on our local roads. In summary, we support the continued operation of the market, but this committee has a responsibility to ensure it does not make a poor decision in haste simply for financial reasons, which should be at the expense of both local people, local businesses and the highway network. And we would also like to suggest that it is a temporary permission for 3 years only. Thank you.
Thank you. Our second speaker is the applicant or agent, Gary Saunders. And again, sir, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, everybody. My name's Gary Saunders, Saunders Markets. We are the management company involved in the market down at North Weald. The current situation really arose in 2023. We had a competitor close. We curated the best stalls from that competitor and increased the size of the market. Previous to that, it'd been operating at the same level since COVID. It did increase in size. We correspondingly started an advertising campaign, which was very large and very successful through 23 and 24, which ended up sending the market viral on several social media channels. And the amount of visitors during that period increased massively. We became aware, and we've had several meetings with the council during 2024, both with councillors and parish council, that the traffic that the market was attracting was an issue. We pulled all of our advertising at that stage in 2024, and we've not advertised since, and we are seeing a reduction in traffic visiting the market. The additional parking is required, obviously, because we've lost what we have to Google. But we have a fallback position where we can, if we have to, we will reduce the trading area, which is where the 31% comes from, whilst only having to reduce the parking by 10%. But the downward trend is continuing. We've removed all of the traffic issues from North Weald Village. We still have a parking plan to implement for this Christmas because we're a seasonal business. We've been taking videos every month to monitor traffic, and we do agree that the 414 and the Hastingwood roundabout does become busy. But Essex Highways control the traffic flow of that roundabout, and we quite often see that the problems are caused when people block each other and don't use the hatched areas as they should be, which does create an issue. We've never filled the market car park. Even at our peak in 2025, we've never filled it. We've always had capacity. And we've got 300 traders now, many of whom employ local people as well, that rely on the market as their source of income. Some of these traders are now taking bricks and mortar premises locally as well, but the market is still their core area of trade. We've taken the traffic very seriously, and I won't list all of the things that we've done, but we've done an awful lot to mitigate it. But I think the stopping advertising has been the main thing. Just on a note with other businesses, for shooters, the Golf Range, Casablanca and residents of Blenheim Square all have access to a roadway that goes through the airfield. Is that mine? That goes through the airfield. So we've got 840 other users that don't have to engage in the traffic. We'll continue to monitor, but I think the market's a very important retail part of the local economy now.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any ward councillors? No. Members? Councillor Morgan.
Do the new parking arrangements allow for disabled parking?
Suki?
So, did you say that Google's parking will be for disabled parking? Can you just repeat the question, sorry?
What's the provision for disabled parking?
Oh, they haven't specified. They've just given an area. We can get them to provide a plan to show which, how many of that area will be allocated for disabled. But my view is it's most likely going to be sort of, because it's stewarded, they will tell you where to park, and help you to be able to see the badge, and then we'll give them additional space to be able to come in and out more easily than the standard space.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Lucas.
Thank you, Chairman. Obviously, Northfield Market is very well known. I've frequently visited myself, as well as lots of other people in the area, and I know how well used it is, and I also understand the impact that it has on the area there. And it is busy. And we've heard this evening of the mitigation that has been being put in place, which sounds to be the busiest of times, which is good to hear. And I'm glad to hear that it's definitely making a difference. I also have looked in detail at what's proposed, and I understand, especially on social media, the concern in the reduction of 30% of stalls. However, we've also heard that there has been sort of a downward trend in the size of the market anyway. So I'm not seeing that as a major concern. And in terms of it's a 10% reduction in parking. However, we've also heard that the parking that's currently there is not at maximum capacity. So I don't see any issues with that either. So I actually think that this has been, considering the situation and the site and what's been proposed on the site, I think that it's been proposed to the best possible situation, taking into consideration the size of the market and the available space on the site. So I'm happy, to support this application unless I'm sort of convinced by anybody else otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lisa Morgan.
Thank you. I do have a concern that we're looking at this as a 5-year issue, and it should be, like we just heard from the North Weald Parish, maybe we need to reassess it after 2 to 3 years. And we heard originally that there was going to be a reduction, I believe, of 14%, then 20%. Now it's 31%, which is 300 stalls, which is 93 stalls. That's a lot. And I don't believe they say it's not to full capacity, the parking, but nobody's actually said what the full capacity is and whether it's being used to 90%. If it's used to 90%, then that's fine. The 9.6% less wouldn't be an issue. But if it's only to say 4 or 5%, where are the other people going to go? We've heard residents aren't happy with the traffic schemes, and it does cause issues from the roundabouts, from the 414 and further on. Nobody thought maybe we should do, and maybe I missed that bit in there because I'm standing in for Councillor Bromwich, but whether there was a park and ride scheme or anything. We've heard lots of people do come in. So where are them other 800 odd people coming from? Are they parking in North Weald? There's a lot of questions that I feel are unanswered. And I don't believe, I do go there because they did take over from Romford Market. I don't believe with 100 less stalls, you're going to get 31% less people turn up. I'm really concerned about it.
Right, thank you. Any further members? Councillor Kaufman.
Thank you, Chair. Just be a quick one, and I'm not going to dwell too much on the market itself. It's more the aviation element of it and just how the public are going to interact with the airfield. I've looked at the flow plan that's shown with the blue arrow showing where the axis is and how things move. But is there any information about how you're going to prevent people getting a bit exuberant and driving effectively onto the runway? Is there any signage, fence shown that's going to stop people driving up to where the runway is? And what have the CAA said about it?
I'm pretty certain provision would have already been made for that, but Suki, can you answer that?
Yeah, so they have vetted stewards that will coordinate how people coming onto the site and leave the site. So I shouldn't imagine that it's a problem in terms of them driving onto the airfield. Because it is properly managed.
Right, thank you. Councillor Holly Whitbread.
Thank you, Chairman. I agree with many of the points made by Councillor Lucas. I do have sympathy with the parish council. Fulmwood is in my county council division and borders part of Northfield Airfield. And I know that Mr Saunders has done a lot of work working alongside the parish council and the district and county councillors to try and mitigate that impact on the village. I know there's still a particular pressure point around the Hastingwood roundabout, which continues to be a concern. But what I would say is that I know also that while there may be a 30% reduction in physical size, most of the existing stall holders will be offered space, which is a good news from a kind of local economic point of view. But in terms of the numbers that we'll be seeing, we have seen that downward trend. It kind of fits in with the existing use of the airfield and is really important in terms of keeping this local facility going. I will dispute one thing, that the parish council, they spoke about the kind of financial benefit for the council and this being rushed through. This has been an application which has been many months and indeed I think over a year in the planning, and there's been many consultations with the airfield team to make sure this works, this is safe, and means that we can keep this business running on the airfield.
Thank you. No. Right, members, the officer's recommendation is to approve with conditions. All those in favour, please show.
For.
All those against?
2 against.
Abstentions?
1 abstention, Chairman.
That application is therefore approved. Thank you. Yep. There also needs to swap anyone? There also needs to swap anyone? Right, thank you. So our second agenda item, sorry. Oh, so, yes, sorry. So Councillor Matthews has taken his original place and Councillor Lucas has now left the chamber. Thank you. Right, so going back to the running order then. Agenda item 7 is EPF stroke 1215 stroke 25, land to the southwest of Stonnard's Hill, Epping, on pages 9 to 20 of the agenda. And Kelly is taking us through this via Teams. Please, Kelly.
Thank you, Chair. Agenda item 7 relates to land west of Stonnard's Hill in Epping. Before I commence my presentation, I wanted to highlight to members that following the publication of the agenda, additional representations were received from the Thaden Grove Residents Association and Subcommittee Friends of Mill Pot at Mounts, highlighting potential safety concerns, lack of information regarding management of the site, and ecological impacts. It is considered that these matters were already addressed in the committee report. Moving on to the presentation, the proposal is for the change of use of the land to allow for the keeping of a maximum of 8 horses. No structures or buildings form part of this application. The horses would be taken care of by private owners who would visit the site daily. So here we have the site location plan, which shows the site area, which measures approximately 13.85 hectares. The site is designated Greenbelt and there is a group TPO within the site. To the north and west of the site, there are residential properties, and towards the south and east of the site, there are open fields as well as the railway line. It is important to note that there are no other designations for this site. It is not designated as public open space and it is not owned by the council. This shows the aerial photo of the site, and members will note the extensive site area and tree coverage. The site also includes a large pond towards the south, and as you can see, it's very open and has a very verdant character. Here is a selection of photographs, which again demonstrate the level of openness within the site boundary along with the extensive tree coverage and greenery. The proposed development is for recreational purposes and therefore falls within the uses considered to be appropriate within the Greenbelt. There are no other site-specific designations relating to the site that would prevent the change of use of the site in planning policy terms. There is a public right-of-way application being considered by Essex County Council, which is a material planning consideration. Rights of access are covered by legislation out with the planning process, and there is an informative recommended in the planning decision notice highlighting that under such legislation, the owner cannot restrict public access if the public right-of-way application is approved. A community asset nomination has also been received in relation to the site, which is also pending. However, it is considered that this would not materially alter the planning policy merits of the application. The developer must work with Essex County Council to ensure that the keeping of horses on the land does not prevent or result in health and safety issues to the public in the event that the public right-of-way application is approved. A condition is recommended restricting the number of horses to 8, which when compared to the large scale of the site is a very small number. A further condition seeking details of fencing and boundary treatment is also recommended. It is noted that there are a very high number of objections to this application. Concerns have been raised on a number of matters, particularly around ecology and the impact on the welfare of the horses. But as per the start of the presentation, the horses would be privately owned and it would be the responsibility of the owners to look after them. Any concern about the welfare of the horses can be dealt with by public in the way of usual means through the RSPCA, for example. In terms of ecology, the Ecology Officer and Natural England have been consulted and they raised no objection. Overall, there are no planning policy grounds to warrant refusal of this application and approval is therefore recommended. Thank you.
Thank you. We have two public speakers on this item. The first is an objector, Ruth Stott, on behalf of Thaden Grove Association. You have 3 minutes, madam.
Thank you. Speaking on behalf of the Thaden Grove Association, we urge you to refuse or at the very least defer this application. Over 100 residents have objected to the proposal on the grounds of the land being used by the community for recreation, walking, dog walking and wildlife observation for over 40 years. The area is woven into our everyday lives and is integral to our sense of place. Full access must be maintained. Ecologically, the land supports a wide variety of species and is recognised within Natural England's priority habitat inventory. Yet none of this important ecological information is being acknowledged in the application or the officer's report. Firstly, there are two formal legal processes ongoing, a public right-of-way application to register long-used footpaths and an asset of community value nomination submitted by Epping Town Council. The application is misleading as it claims there are no footpaths. However, photographic evidence within the application clearly shows well-trodden paths, and I can confirm the paths exist as I walk them every day. Additionally, fencing depicted in the application's tree report blocks all of these paths and mentions the use of electric fences. Approval at this stage could lead to further enforcement issues, particularly if the public rights of way are confirmed. Secondly, the proposal lacks almost all the detail you would expect. No management plan, no details of site supervision, no water source, no waste or transport plans, no clarity on who will run or maintain the site. The application states there will be 6 to 8 horses, but the sheer amount of fencing proposed suggests this is for more than 8 horses, or is simply an attempt to lock the public out of the land before rights of way are approved. Thirdly, the location itself is inappropriate without proper infrastructure. It borders a railway, a main road, and private gardens. Using permitted development to deal with safety and infrastructure after approval is unacceptable. These questions must be answered before any decision is made. Finally, many residents are concerned that this could become a commercial operation in disguise, potentially involving horse dealing, test rides, or even on-site residency, none of which are disclosed. Please do not approve this application as it stands. Refuse or defer the decision until the public rights of way or asset of community value processes are resolved and until a proper detailed proposal with full management information is brought forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Our second speaker is from the Town Council, Councillor Nigel Avey. I have no need to remind you, sir, you're 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. As you have read the officer's report and from the last speaker, you will gather that there is a large amount of disquiet among residents and the Town Council regarding this application, and for good reason. The owners of this site, which I'll refer to by its local name of Millmound Fields, are Waits, a development and construction company. I will not dwell on why a development and construction company would want to keep horses for recreational purposes on land they own, but I would invite you to draw your own conclusions from that fact. We would say that there is ample reasons for you to refuse or at least defer consideration of this application. As you are aware, there is a public right-of-way application currently being considered by Essex County Council in respect of paths which traverse Millmound Fields. This application is still outstanding. The applicant intends to erect fences which will be electrified probably to keep the horses contained. The fencing plan submitted by the applicants would on the face of it completely restrict any right-of-way on the land and also defeat the right-of-way application before it has been considered. This contradicts the officer's statement that this application would not prevent the land being accessed by the public. It clearly will, and the land will be functionally inaccessible for most users. This land has been used and enjoyed by residents for more than 40 years, hence the application for Millmound Fields being designated as an asset of community value, an application which is still being considered by the District Council. Approving a change of use at this point undermines the long-established community access to this site, and many users may feel unsafe crossing the site if horses are present. As the Epping Society has stated, this is not a rural grazing field, but a highly valued, urban-edged green space used daily by the community. Comparisons to remote agricultural sites are really not possible. The applicant states that aside from fencing, there will be no other structures on the land, but one can presume there may be temporary structures associated with proposed change of use, stables, caravans for persons working with the horses. There does not appear to be a lack of operational details of this sort. Millmound Fields is currently green belt land containing a diverse ecology of fauna and flora. Residents have engaged an independent ecological survey which highlights the rich range of wildlife, bats and bird life present. A report on this survey was produced and submitted to the planning officer. It is clear that grazing animals and the recreational use associated with horses may well damage and degrade the ecological value of this land. Therefore, I would ask you to either to refuse or defer this application because it is premature given the other applications in respect of the site. It will physically block or practically deter public access. It will remove valued community space. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Ward councillors. Councillor.
Thank you, Chairman. Just before I start, I meant to flag this up to the planning officers previously, but there is a mention in the report there's no heritage assets on the site. I just wanted to draw members' attention to the bit marked as Mill Mound on the OS maps, which is on the Essex Historic Environment Record. Just sort of to mention that. I mean, to sort of go to the meat of this, I mean, clearly, there are a lot of fields around the district with horses in them, fields with cattle, fields with alpacas, no doubt other quadrupeds as well. So I suppose the question is, why has this particular application stimulated so many objections? And a lot, I think, is to do with the planning history of the site and, what you might see as concerns about, planning creep. This was one of the areas considered for residential development when the local plan was developed. Subsequent to that, there are proposals to develop 150 or so dwellings on the site. They're referred to in the ecology report, which is on the website. And members who've looked at the planning document submitted with the application will see rather more sort of time and expense and consultants have gone into this than would usually be the case for the sort of economic return you'd get from grazing 8 horses. So I think people's concerns are entirely understandable. I won't repeat what other people have said, but perhaps there's 3 things in particular I'd ask members to bear in mind when making their decision. And firstly, animal welfare has come up in a lot of comments. I don't pretend to be an expert on that, but it is true to say animal welfare can be a material consideration in planning applications if members choose to make it so. The second issue is access, and as we've heard, there is uncertainty and concern about where the placing of the fencing would be and whether or not that would obstruct the potential public rights of way which cross the site. That potentially is something to be controlled by a condition. And I note in particular that the landscape team from Place Services at Essex County Council talked about that and public sort of accessibility as part of the landscape character and so forth. And I don't really see that recommendation carried through into the report and the recommendations. And I think it should be for the reasons stated. And I suppose thirdly, there's the issue of the sort of accoutrements and equipment and so forth that sometimes comes with horse keeping. The field shelters, the equipment, the other bits and pieces which compromise the open character of the fields. I know there's limited permitted development rights on this sort of land, but I don't see much reference to permitted development, and certainly I think there's a strong case for not allowing permitted development on this site, given its sensitivity. I mean, again, if you go back to local plan reports, you'll see mentions of the field patterns and the landscape character and so forth. And I think if members aren't convinced on those points, it is worth deferring to get those resolved. Thanks, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Janet Whitehouse, did you have anything to add?
Well, Chairman, I wasn't going to, but I submitted my letter of objection. Your microphone's on. I submitted my letter of objection, so those are there. But can I ask a question about this fencing? I don't know if all the members of the committee have read all the background information. I haven't, but objectors have mentioned this fencing. There's nothing in the report about fencing. I'd really like to see on the plan where this fencing goes. And the conclusion to the report quite clearly says there are no structures on the site. I mean, I think a fence is a structure. So could we see where the fence goes on the application to aid the committee in their deliberations? Thank you.
Thank you. Kelly?
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, in terms of the fencing, there is a condition recommended in the decision notice which seeks full details of any fencing and boundary treatment to be submitted to and approved in writing by the local planning authority. And what we would do is we would liaise with Essex County Council to ensure that the type of fencing and its location would be appropriate within the context of this particular site. Obviously, we've got a public right-of-way application that's pending, which they are currently dealing with. So we do actually have that condition recommended in the report. I won't touch on the other issues. I'll let the debate continue.
Okay, thank you. Members, before seconding it is actually conditioned, as the planning officer just stated, about before any occupation, the fence and everything has to be agreed by the council. So that one is actually covered. Who's first? Councillor Sharif.
Thank you, Chairman. I think there's very little more to say, actually. We've heard from the speakers and they've very eloquently made their case. And I would have to agree with them. I think it would be very premature with 2 processes, legal processes, still they haven't been determined, I think it would be premature to make a decision on this application. I think we do either need to refuse it or to defer it. And the other thing I'd like to say is, once an equestrian use is approved, it really does open the floodgates for something else to be developed there. And that would essentially erode a protected site. I mean, this is a very valued green space, not just socially, but environmentally as well. And I think the sensible approach would be to pause and protect this site. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Holly Whitbread.
Thank you, Chairman. Like Councillor Sharif, I agree with much of that's been said this evening. And I mean, I find this application very concerning. Without a doubt, I mean, as I said, I live a couple of minutes away from the site, but this is a very well established community use. It's actually a beautiful site and a gem in the heart of Epping. So I've got great concerns to see this application this evening, and I won't repeat the points that have been made, but this is a pure greenbelt site. It's not in the local plan, and it was fought against in the local plan by Councillor Avey and myself, because for very good reasons. This site is completely inappropriate for development. But obviously that's not what we're looking at here this evening. We're looking at an equestrian application. I think the key point here is on deferral. I think we're not equipped as a planning committee to make a proper decision without that public right-of-way application determined, with that currently going through the process, and also the community asset application going through the process. So I would be minded to propose a deferral until that public right-of-way application was determined, and not just to the next committee, but when we actually had a decision on that. So that would be the first step I would like to take. But first, can I just ask advice of the planning officer? If this was to be agreed this evening, is there any way that we can put on a condition onto any planning permission that was agreed that the applicant wouldn't be allowed to agree to a change of use until the end of the local plan period? Because obviously this isn't an allocated site in the local plan. Would we be able to try and protect the site at least within the local plan period?
So,
in answer to that
2023
question,
sorry, Kelly.
Kelly speaking.
Sorry, Chair. If I can respond to Councillor. No, I don't think that would be appropriate or reasonable. We have to assess the application that is in front of us this evening, and I'm a bit concerned about some of the comments that are being made, because I feel that it's going off topic a little. This is not an equestrian development. They're not proposing an equestrian scheme. They are proposing to simply keep 8 horses on the land, nothing else. In terms of permitted development rights, we could put a condition on restricting permitted development rights to prevent them putting other structures on the land. In terms of the Greenbelt policy, it's in complete compliance with Greenbelt policy because it's a recreational use. The other points that have been raised in terms of deferring the application, again, that wouldn't be reasonable or possible in this case. Firstly, the public right-of-way application with Essex County Council may take up to 7 years to be determined. And for the reasons set out in the officer's report, we do not feel that keeping 8 horses on this land would preclude or prevent a public right-of-way through this land. In terms of the community asset nomination, that is pending consideration. However, I have had indication from legal services that it is likely to be refused. The other point I'd like to make is in regard to the landscaping. There is a condition seeking a landscape management plan to ensure that the landscape is protected as much as possible. And yeah, I would strongly recommend that members consider the application on its merits. There's been a lot of reference made to potential other applications developing the land for housing. That is not what is before us this evening. We must have
planning reason for refusing this application. It has to be based on specific policy, and I would struggle to come up with anything on this development. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lisa Morgan.
Thank you. You said there's no applications for anything to be built here, but normally when we put houses in fields, we do have horse shelters. That is, even though it's something that's movable, it is something that will be developed there. You can't leave a horse in a field in all weathers without any form of shelter, unless they're just presuming the horses will go under the trees. Is it possible, first of all, to see the pictures of the pathways that we've heard about? I'd like to see the pictures of where these pathways were. Thank you. Let's have a look. So, okay, so it's straight down the middle, by the looks of it. Thank you. And the second thing is, we've heard that we've got bats there and different kinds of birds, which are obviously protected. And there'll be a downgrade of the ecological value of the land. And it is somewhat on the heritage map. One part of me says, yes, lovely, we should have horses, no problem at all. The other part of me is, we will be having developments on there because we will be having horse shelters. Is it possible we can remove the permitted development rights if we have horses? And also, what are they putting in place for the protection of the bats? And I'm really concerned about these electric fences. I've not seen many other horse fields with electric fences round, and if we have people using this, I'm really concerned where the electric fence is going. I know it's going to be, we've just heard, it's going to be another application, but I have huge concerns over this, and I would really like to see, if it's possible, if we can remove the permitted development rights on this site, please.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can. I've spoken to the applicant already on this matter, and they have indicated they'd be happy to remove permitted development rights on the site. Just on the topic of the fencing, obviously we've got that condition covered, and as I said previously, we would work with Essex County Council to ensure that public safety is considered.
Thank you. Councillor Matthews.
Thank you, Chairman. I've listened to everyone, got quite a few points, but if I can just have a question answered first, please, because I think it's key. Can the planning officer tell us, would fencing be classed as a structure, and could that be introduced under permitted development rights? I hear that she said, you know, we can put a condition on to prevent permitted development, but would the fencing of the site at a later date be classed under that permitted development?
Yes, you can do fencing under permitted development up to 2 metres in height, but the condition that's been recommended would mean that they would have to submit details of any fencing before they put the application in. So we would be covered in that respect.
Okay, that's useful information. A lot's been said this evening, and we do need to be mindful as a committee. We're here to vote on what is in front of us, and we cannot vote on what might be, what could be, what may happen, and assumptions that we are all probably in total agreement of what will happen here. You know, I have one particular issue with the site that I think merits a sort of defendable position, and that is on the ecological issues around the site. As a local farmer and husband to an avid horse rider and horse owner, I know firsthand the issues you have with horses on land, particularly the land around here, which is, as many people know, naturally heavy clay, not free draining whatsoever. Horses, although the argument could be made, there's a very low ratio of horses per acre. Horses are a herd animal. They will always stay together. They won't disperse 8 of them over this whole site. They'll always stay together. There's going to be huge issues, particularly in the winter, if there isn't the introduction of structures, and I completely appreciate the point. We cannot make a decision on whether there would be or wouldn't be a structure, but so we'll take it on the basis that there isn't a structure. So then that supports my point further that there will be huge ecological damage to this site, even by having just the 8 horses here. I also know, in terms of the growing conditions of the grass sward, that while the pictures that were taken clearly in the summer or spring showed nice lush meadows, during the winter that grass will severely deplete, and then horses, whether it's 1 or 8 or 800, will need supplement feeding. So that will introduce the introduction of vehicles coming onto the site to deliver hay in the form of either a tractor or a 4x4, or someone having to physically carry that on and off. So that in itself adds to the ecological damage. So while everyone's spoken about a lot of points this evening, I don't feel many of them are actual defendable positions in rejecting this planning, other than the one I've highlighted, which is the ecological damage, which is a contradiction to the Greenbelt. So I don't agree with the planning assessment that it conforms with the Greenbelt policy, because obviously undue damage within the Greenbelt, it would be a contradiction. So my position on this, unless anyone can convince me otherwise, is that on ecological grounds that we shouldn't be passing this application this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Kelly, do you want to come back?
Can I come in? Yes, please. I think we would be onto a bit of a sticky wicket if we turn this down on ecology grounds. Natural England haven't objected on the grounds of issues with having 8 horses on the land, and Essex County Council Ecology, who have done a very thorough assessment, there has been back and forth on this application. They've asked for additional surveys and testing, which the applicant has carried out, have come to the conclusion that there's no objection, subject to the conditions that are recommended in the report. So if it is refused on ecology grounds, we're obviously going against expert advice. And in terms of an appeal, I think we would seriously struggle with that. I want to point out as well that it's not unusual to see animals in open fields and in the countryside and in parkland, deer, horses, cattle, and the Ramblers Association, for example, actually highlight the types of animals that are usually found in these kind of areas, and horses are one of them. In terms of sort of behavioural issues, the only animal I believe they highlight as a potential issue is the bull. But so that being said, yeah, I just don't think that we have grounds to refuse this, and I just want to flag up to members that if it is turned down, I really don't believe we'd be successful at appeal.
Thank you. Councillor Matthews.
Thank you, Chair. I thank the planning officer for the comments there. Unfortunately, in this occasion, I will disagree with her. Good thing about experts is you can always find an expert for every case. And while I wouldn't have the audacity to call myself an expert, but having been a farmer all my life and growing up around horses and having livestock on land, particularly in this area, as I wouldn't go so far to call myself an expert, I'd say I just was quite well positioned to make an accurate representation on what damage could or couldn't be done on this site. So, as our role here is to provide the sort of local knowledge and contribute to this debate, I will still stick by my comments I previously made. While I agree it would be a difficult challenge to defend, we've been in positions before where we've defended positions against all so-called experts and been successful numerous times. So I would be confident if members did agree that this was rejected this evening on grounds of ecological issues, that we would have a case to put forward, and I would be confident that we could defend that.
Councillor Sharif.
Thank you, Chairman. I mean, this is essentially a change of use, and whilst I respect the planning officer's comments, I would still stand firm that having horses on this protected land is going to damage the green belt, and I stick by, as Councillor Matthews has said, by my decision, and I will not be supporting this application this evening.
Can I come in just
Yes, Kelly.
my final attempt at convincing members? I think it's important to note that this is former agricultural land, so this would have been used for farming at some point, and horses may well have been kept as part of that, and I just think we need to bear those things in mind when making the decision.
Sorry, could you say that again, Kelly?
This is farmland.
So it's former agricultural land. The application that's in is a change of use from former agricultural land to the keeping of horses for recreational purposes. But bearing in mind that as an agricultural piece of land, it would have been possible to keep horses on the site for farming purposes. And I think that that is a point that maybe that members should also consider.
Right, thank you. I don't profess to know a lot about horses apart from they're expensive and hard work. There's going to be a lot of to-ing and fro-ing. It's not going to be a case of 8 people going at the same time. There's going to be probably 16 people going backwards and forwards across that ground. I agree with you, Councillor Matthews. The ground is going to be churned up in no time at all. In the summer, it's lovely. You've got fields with horses in and they plod about and do horse things. In the winter, they're up to their ankles. It's ludicrous. They just churn the ground to total mud, but that's just my experience. Councillor Lisa Morgan.
Sorry, just one more question. It's something to do with what Councillor Matthews highlighted. The road access. Could we see the road access, please? Because it would be quite nice if there's road access on where these 16 people are going to park when they come and visit their horses. Thank you.
The access is from Heartland Road, which I think is around here. Heartland Road is here. Yeah, there's an access there. So this is the main access route. I don't know if you can see my cursor there. Can you see that? Can you see that now? So yeah, the access is from Heartland Road. Again, just on the point of the idea that there'd be 16 people coming to the site, we've got the evidence of that, and you know, the supporting documentation says that there would be a person visiting the site twice a day. So again, we are the numbers that are being put forward don't correlate with the submission in any way. So I think again, members need to be mindful of that, and just in terms of those kind of matters. Obviously, if we do refuse it and there's an appeal, we could be liable for costs.
Right, thank you. The thing with them, they don't only eat, they drink as well. And transporting water in buckets to wherever they're going to be tied up, there's a lake.
I think it's a pond.
Oh, they're going to drink out of it. Sorry, Councillor Matthews.
Chair, I'll just make one final point because I think the planning officer made it, and it was actually the perfect comment really, because she highlighted the fact that you know, the owner could store horses on there currently as agricultural, and that's very true. They could do, but we've been asked to look at the application in front of us. So if the owner is inclined that their passion for horses is so high, then I don't understand why they would have put this application in. You know, they can put the horses on there as it stands now. So we're here to judge the application that's in front of us. I'd like to think, a compelling point that my concerns are all around the ecological points. I haven't got concerns. I've heard a lot of the residents and speakers' concerns. You know, I sympathise with them all, but I don't necessarily agree that many of them are material planning objections, but the ecological one is. So I will stick with my opinion. Thank you.
Kelly?
Just to flag up that the reason that the application is in is, although it was former agricultural, obviously it hasn't been used for agricultural purposes in recent years, and you need a change of use application to go from agricultural uses, so sort of farming with horses within that farm, to just keeping horses for recreational purposes. So that's the reason for the application.
Thank you.
I've got a question. Thank you. Very interesting, this one. Question though, on the horse welfare side, where is the owner of the land or the horses in relationship to where they're going to be kept?
That's not something that I can answer. That's entirely up to the owner. They're entitled to keep their horses in a field and live elsewhere as long as they maintain their welfare. As I said during my presentation, that's something that could be considered by the public. If the public have a concern, they could go through the RSPCA, for example, but they would be privately owned horses. So it would be up to those private individuals to maintain the welfare of those horses, like it would if I owned a dog. I have to ensure its welfare.
All right, thank you. Members, the officer's recommendation is to approve the conditions. All those in favour, please show.
None, Chairman.
All those against?
6, Chairman.
Abstentions?
2, Chairman.
That application has gone contrary to the recommendation. Can we have a reason for refusal?
Chair, I'd like to state the reason for refusal on the grounds of ecological damage to the site and its inability, how's best to word that? It's not suitable for the use of recreational horses on there due to the ecological damage they pose to the site.
There's a seconder for that. All those in favour?
Unanimous, Chairman.
Thank you. That application has therefore been refused for the reasons stated. No. No. If we can leave quickly and quietly, please. Thank you. Right, members, agenda item 9 then is EPF stroke 1490 stroke 25. 10 Sparleys Hill, Loughton, IG10 1BT on pages 28 to 39 of the agenda. And who's doing it? Mo. Please.
He's got some. He's got some. Oh dear. Oh dear. Do we want to stop for 5?
John for 5 minutes.
Yeah, go for it, man. Yeah.
Good evening, Chair, members and everyone. Item 9 relates to 10 Spaley's Hill in Loughton. This application is before the committee since the local town council have objected and registered to speak. The proposal is for a replacement dwelling. So turning to the slides, here we have the location plan outlined in red. Here's an aerial view of the subject site over here. Here's a different view of the property. This is the pre-existing situation as a chalet-style bungalow. This is the current site photos. So it's currently under construction to add an additional story, which was granted under prior approval. It has been implemented, and as you can see in this picture here, it's under construction. They have commenced works. Here's a detailed site plan of the replacement dwelling. So one element to note is the footprint is similar to neighbouring properties on the street. Here are the pre-existing elevations as a chalet-style bungalow. Here are the approved elevations under the prior approval scheme for an additional story, taking it from a chalet bungalow to a two-story dwelling with a roof. And here we have the proposed elevations for the replacement dwelling. And here are the street scenes. So at the top, you have the pre-existing. In the middle, you have the prior approval scheme for the additional story. And at the bottom, you have the replacement dwelling. The blue line indicates the prior approval scheme, and the replacement dwelling is of a lower height than what was approved. So the full merits of the case are set out within the agenda, and I'll just summarize the case. Officers consider that the proposed dwelling reflects the prevailing character of Spaley's Hill, where properties vary in style but share similar massing and footprint as shown on the slides. The design is considered in keeping with the street scene and is of a lower height than the prior approval scheme currently under construction, which further reduces its visual impact. This makes the design acceptable in officers' view. The proposal also safeguards the living conditions of neighbouring properties from any harmful overlooking, overshadowing, overbearing or visual impacts. For these reasons, officer recommendation is to grant conditional planning permission. Thank you, Chair. Stay.
Thank you. You may see I've taken over because Councillor Stocker's having a bit of a cough at the moment, shall we say. Right. We've got some speakers on this. First of all, we've got an objector. Oh, sorry, number 9, isn't it? Do you have no objectors? We've got Town Councillor Carol Davis. You've got 3 minutes.
Good evening, Chair and members of the committee. I speak on behalf of Loughton Town Council's Planning Committee to strongly object to this application regarding 10 Spaley's Hill. The application proposes the demolition of a single-storey bungalow and its replacement with a 4-storey dwelling. We consider this a clear case of overdevelopment that would be visually dominant, out of scale, and wholly incongruous with the established character of this residential area. Our objections are based on key breaches of adopted policy. Policy DM9 of Epping Forest Local Plan 2023 requires that new development respects the form and character of its surroundings. This proposal does not. It is entirely out of keeping with the existing built environment on Spaley's Hill. Policy H1E demands the proposals be sympathetic to their meeting, in scale, mass and appearance. Replacing a modest bungalow with a 4-storey house amounts to an excessive and disruptive transformation of the site. undermining the scale and unity of the surrounding homes, precisely what Policy 1 at H1E is designed to prevent. Additionally, paragraph 63 of the NPPF 2023 emphasises the importance of local distinctiveness. This development fails to reflect or respond to the established architectural style of the street. Beyond policy, this application sets a dangerous precedent for large-scale replacements that would erode the charm and character of this part of Spurleys Hill. We urge you not to follow a development that detracts from the streetscape, undermines residents' trust in the planning system and conflicts with the very policies designed to protect this community. Loughton Town Council asks that this application be refused. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have the applicant. I'm just finding you here. Andrew Mammon.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. We, the homeowners, we're a family with young children. We're looking to invest and live in the property for the long term. As you've seen, building work has already commenced on site for the prior approval two-storey house. We've paused this while the replacement house application is being determined. The officer is fair to refer to the prior approval scheme, therefore, as a fallback position as it's mid-construction. We appointed new, highly regarded local architects following the previous refusal, who themselves established this prior approval scheme to meet our needs. Their expertise, policy insight and meticulous study of the site, however, helped us to arrive at this replacement house proposal, which offers a vast improvement over what can be achieved by a prior approval as under construction. The proposal establishes a high-quality, more sustainable and efficient bespoke home which responds to the topography of the site while protecting and maintaining, and in many dimensions improving, neighbour amenity. We note and thank both immediate neighbours for writing to support the proposal, as well as other supporting letters from Spurleys and Ticehurst Hill. The aforementioned topography can be seen in street scene drawing PL12. This has been drawn from a professional survey to accurately plot the chalet bungalow, its neighbours and the proposed house. The street scene drawing demonstrates the house before you to be one of greater architectural merit, fitting well into the established streetscape. The proposal achieves a lower ridge line than what is under construction and improves the form and spacing by introducing a more characteristic hip profile as is common in the street. In addition, neighbour privacy and amenity are maintained through respect of existing front and rear building lines, and enhanced further by including narrowing form to the rear for a more spacious setting. The upper terrace to the rear, a feature which is common with 16 and 14 Shelley Grove, is in our case intentionally inset within the gable to ensure no view into neighbouring gardens and instead solely out across the skyline. We're incorporating privacy screens and retain and will enhance the tall and dense soft landscaping to the side and rear boundaries. I draw your attention to photo 6 in the DAS, which demonstrates the extent of existing screening already provided by planting. This photo is taken from the first floor level. The proposed replacement will also deliver an on-site regulated CO2 reduction of at least 84% over the current building regulations through building form, construction methods, siting and incorporation of renewable technologies. It also provides meaningful drainage enhancements, delivering a betterment of surface water runoff by 61% and further slowdown to flow rates through the incorporation of holding tanks, benefiting the wider locale. The design maintains a traditional two-storey frontage to the street and responds to the site topography with the incorporation of the subterranean lower ground floor, which can only be seen from within the rear garden. And referring to the objections raised by the local town council, I should stress that numbers 8 and number 14 are also 3.5-storey with the lower ground floor to the rear, so it's not out of keeping with the street at all. The proposal has been subject to BRE sunlight and daylight assessments, which show light levels to be neighbouring properties are maintained. And in summary, the proposal is bespoke to the plot. The architecture responds positively and aesthetically through high-quality design and integrates within the fabric of the building energy efficiencies and landscape improvements to the betterment of the environment. We thank you for your time. I look forward to your support.
That's good timing. Members. Councillor Morgan.
Thank you. Could I please have a look at the rear plans and the site plan again? Thank you. And the site plan. And just the rear view again, sorry. Thank you. And can you tell me the height, I couldn't see from here, the height of the new proposed elevations compared to the prior? Are they the same height as the prior approved ones, please?
The replacement dwelling is of a lower height than what was consented, as shown on the blue line over here. So the blue line indicates what was consented under the prior approval. The replacement dwelling is lower than what was approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I've got one little question. I was just looking at relevant planning history, and the proposal EPF 067724, that was refused on the grounds of appear overbearing, etc. Yeah. Is there a major difference here?
I do believe so. I can pull up the plans if members wish to see them.
Yeah, obviously if you want to have a quick look while Councillor Matthews.
Thank you, Chair. I've got absolutely no objection to this whatsoever. I think the key thing is what has already been approved. This is at a lower ridgeline. I think it's worth noting for perhaps members that don't know the site very well. Obviously, Spareley's Hill is a hill that rises up, but it also falls left to right. So the houses on this side of the road, all their driveways go down to the front door, and the houses on the other side all go up to the front door. So the topography of the ground helps considerably. So obviously when we see 3.5, 4 stories, you think, wow, it's going to be huge. But the key point is from the roadside that you're looking at, as it said, as was on the drawings just a minute ago, you're looking at effectively a 2-storey house from the front, and then obviously 3.5 from the rear because it's going down the hill. So with the ridgeline falling in below what is already approved, and it not being out of keeping with some other very large properties on that particular road, I can't see any objection and support the plan as planning officer's recommendation for approval on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Have you?
That's the
previous.
That is the previous scheme that was refused on poor design.
On poor design, maybe.
Poor design.
Okay. Thank you. Any other member? Councillor Morgan.
Sorry, I've just seen that. Could you bring up the plans again for what they want now? Thank you. From the front, please.
This is their front elevation.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I've got to say, it does look better than it did originally, but I do have a huge issue that I do think this is an overdevelopment of the site and not in keeping with the street scene. I know all the houses are different along there, but I do feel this isn't in keeping, and it really is a huge overdevelopment on the site. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, the application is before you for approve with conditions. All those in favour?
No, you can't vote.
4, Chair.
4. Those against?
2.
Abstentions?
1.
In that case, the application is approved. Thank you. I'll now hand back over to Councillor Stocker. Heather. What am I calling you that?
Yes. I do apologise for that coughing fit. On my gravestone, I told you I wasn't well. Right, agenda item 10 then is EPF stroke 0646 stroke 23, which is a garage site at Castle Road, Loughton, IG10 2LT, and I believe we need to have a bit of a swap over. So if Councillor Wiskin will be sitting in for Councillor Kaufman. On this and the following item.
Councillor Morgan.
Eh? Oh.
Can you turn your
Turn the
mic?
microphone off, please. Thank you. Councillor Wiskin, is there any declarations of interest?
No declarations, thank you.
Thank you. Right, Mo, you're going to take us through this, please?
Thank you, Chair. So item 10 relates to the garage site at Castell Road in Loughton. This application is before this committee as there are 5 or more planning objections and the officer recommendation is for approval. The proposal is for the demolition of the garages and the construction of 4 affordable homes. Turning to the slides, here we have the location plan outlined in red. So you have the garages over here. These are the garages over here. And you have the access from Castell Road. Here's an aerial view of the site. So again, the access over here. And the row of garages, one over here, and another one over here. Here's a different angle. Here's the view of the access. And here's a plan of the proposed site. So existing access is maintained. You have the new building positioned over here, along with parking spaces and private amenity space over here, and landscaping. Here are the view of the proposed elevations. You have the front at the top and the rear below. So it's a very modern design. Here's a 3D view. So this is the rear elevation. And these are the private garden spaces, along with the parking. Again, the full merits of the case are set out within the agenda, and I've just summarized the case. This proposal makes good use of the site by turning dated garages into 4 affordable homes. These homes will help local people who are currently waiting for housing and will support the council's wider efforts to meet housing needs in the area. The design has been carefully considered to ensure there are no harmful impacts to the privacy and living conditions of neighbouring properties, and provide a good standard of accommodation for future residents. The contemporary design of the new homes will enhance the character and appearance of the area in officer's view. For these reasons, officer recommendation is to grant conditional planning permission. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We have a couple of, we have 3, but the first one will be a letter from the objector, Miss Olga, who's, sorry?
Strelutska.
And the Democratic Services Officer will read it out, please.
Good evening. My name is Olga and I'm a council tenant at Castle Road. I want to express my serious concerns about the proposed development of the Castle Road garage site. First, there appears to be a planning error in the current site plans, as 2 of the parking spaces, numbers 3 and 4, are shown directly within my garden. This is not acknowledged in the planning document and represents a significant encroachment on land that forms part of my home environment. Such a placement would drastically affect my family's privacy, safety and access to outdoor space. The planning documents also indicate that the overall site boundary has changed. Earlier plans and ecological assessments show my garden outside the development areas. At some points, it seems the boundary was extended, intentionally or by mistake, without assessing the full consequences for my family and other residents. The project as to a whole appears too cramped to fit with the original boundaries, and these changes have been made without properly considering the impact on residents. 1. The Highway Authority assessment suggests that the development won't increase vehicle movements, assuming that 18 previous garages generated constant traffic. In reality, garages are mostly used at the start and end of the day with limited traffic otherwise. Once occupied by new families in 4 flats with 8 parking spaces, residents would travel regularly for work, school, appointments, shopping and other daily activities. Visitors will also require parking, likely using surrounding streets and Castle Road itself, making pavements and blocking access to homes. This will significantly increase traffic, noise, congestion and air pollution, directly affecting all residents' safety and quality of life. 2, the roads alongside my garden seem to be the only access for the development, creating risks in case of emergency and potentially being blocked by the refuse collection point. 3, refuse storage will be visible from my back windows, side windows and back door. From almost every angle of my home, I will see bins, waste areas instead of garden space, exposing me to constant noise, smells and risks of pests. Castle Road is heavily used. It's already heavily used. A bus 20 passes every 13 minutes, causing vibrations, and students walk along the road to the nearby secondary school and bus stop, creating chaos, noise and litter. Additionally, residents and vehicles from the development will increase congestion, noise and safety risks for all residents. 5, I am also representing other local residents living near the proposed development who have contacted me and asked that I voice their concerns at this meeting. Their main concerns include overlooking and loss of privacy, the risk of demolition work, weakening the foundations of nearby houses, potential asbestos exposure during the demolition process, and lead contamination already found in soil, which raises serious concerns that the disturbance of the ground during the construction could spread contamination to the surrounding area and neighbouring gardens. They are also deeply worried about the increase in noise and pollution that will inevitably come both with the construction and the occupation of the new flats. I urge the committee to fully consider these serious impacts before granting permission. Thank you.
Thank you. From Loughton Town Council with Carol Davis. Okay, Madam, 3 minutes. Thank you.
Chair, members of the committee. I speak on behalf of Loughton Town Council Planning Committee to formally object to the planning application concerning the garage site at Castell Road. Our key concerns are as follows. 1, unacceptable backland development. This proposal represents classic backland development, densely placed behind existing properties with no proper frontage or integration into the established street scene. It fails to respect the character and setting of the surrounding neighbourhood, which is tightly knit and residential in nature. 2, overlooking and loss of privacy. The proposed two-storey building is in uncomfortably close proximity to neighbouring homes. Specifically, the first floor terrace directly overlooks the garden of 6 Chester Green, severely compromising the privacy of its residents. This is wholly inappropriate in such a constrained location. 3, inadequate refuse strategy. The bin collection point is located on an extremely narrow access route. When bins are out, vehicles will not be able to pass and pedestrian safety will be at risk. This is a practical and safety failure in the proposed design. 4, no fire service access. Critically, there is no proper fire engine access to the site. This is a major red flag in terms of safety and compliance. In a development of this scale, emergency access is not just a recommendation, it is a requirement. 5, overdevelopment. 2 stories is just too much. We believe the site is simply not suitable for 2-storey flats. It is too confined and the density and massing are excessive for the location. While we are not opposed to all development here, we suggest that single-storey dwellings might be a more appropriate and less intrusive alternative. You have to consider that these are sheer walls, sheer 2-storey walls built straight up to the boundary. These will be appearing over, if you imagine your back garden fence. There is no your garden, their garden, and then the 2-storey house. This is immediately rising above your back garden fence. This is what it will be. In conclusion, this application would compromise privacy, public safety and the residential character of the area. We respectfully urge the committee to refuse this application. Thank you.
Thank you. If you'd turn your microphone off, please. Thank you. We also now have James Ho on Teams, who's the applicant's agent, I believe. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you for the opportunity. The proposed Passive House scheme is a fantastic opportunity to utilise a hidden away plot of space and utilise its potential. As ECD architects, we specialise in sustainable practice, and its abbreviation is energy conscious design. With this in mind, the project has been designed with sustainable principles and proven construction methods to bring down heating and energy bills for prospective new residents. And conscious decisions have been to bring in and improve quality of green space into the immediate area, which is currently overall a hard standing area. The development will serve the community by providing 4 high quality affordable homes and addressing the housing need for the local area and tackling the increasing issues of fuel poverty. The proposed scheme has been thoroughly and extensively consulted with the appointed...
Yeah, Mr Ho, if I can just stop you for a minute. Can you either speak slightly slower or slightly louder? We're having difficulty hearing what you're saying. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Would you like me to start from the beginning or just continue?
Yep, we can start the egg timer again.
Yeah, okay. The proposed Passive House scheme is a fantastic opportunity to utilise a hidden away plot of space and utilise its potential. ECD architects specialise in sustainable practice, and the abbreviation stands for energy conscious design. With this in mind, the project has been designed with sustainable principles and proven construction methods to bring down heating and energy bills for prospective new residents. And a conscious design has been brought in to improve the quality of green space into the immediate area, which currently is overall hard standing. The development will serve the community, providing 4 high quality affordable homes and addressing the housing need for the local area and tackling increasing issues of fuel poverty. The proposed scheme has been thoroughly consulted with the appointed Secure by Design officer who has a local knowledge of the area, and provisions have been integrated in design that targets Secure by Design gold standard. Consultations with Essex Fire and Rescue have been carried out as part of the process, in which they have been able to comment and considered in accordance with Essex Act 1987, Section 13. They determined it as acceptable of the proposed scheme includes the installation of sprinklers. As part of the design team, landscape and transport consultants have been working in collaboration and integrated within the design to carry out vehicle tracking, landscape seating areas, and considered parking spaces with EV charging points and capabilities, and a considered refuge point to make sure that they have long-term maintenance in mind and that they're sort of maintained throughout the year. Sightlines from the first floor balconies do not present direct overlooking into neighbouring properties, and high quality screening has been proposed to provide privacy for both the residents and the neighbouring residents. No windows have been designed on the side of the elevation as a conscientious effort to respect neighbouring residents. Building separation distances are respected, and the closest structure concerned is a garden outhouse, which is regarded as not inhabited throughout the year consistently, and also doesn't have windows to the side elevation facing the proposed development, in case there's a concern of loss of light received. With regards to concern of proximity, the proposed development is measured at over 1.4 metres away from the boundary line, and are above building regulations and policy guidance. These levels have been amended
Right.
and lowered.
If you can wrap up now, please.
Yep, ridge levels are in line with neighbouring properties and only slightly higher due to the improved floor to ceilings that are in line with current building regulations, and the modern design, as Mohammed said, are in line for maintenance.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Ward councillors. Councillor Kaufman.
Sorry to be mean. I had absolutely no idea what Mr. Ho said, I'm afraid. I really couldn't follow any of it. So I'm going to desperately try to avoid going over any of the grounds of, I'm not sure what was on there, but my colleague Carol and from the officer. This is a really important thing. You know, this is going to have real impacts on people that are nearby, and what we've just heard, I think, is a little bit of an insult to our residents. You know, such an impact to be presented in such a way that we can do better. I think we have to do better. Just looking at the scheme in itself, again, I don't want to go too back over old ground, but the boundary treatment is wrong. Having a first floor balcony, and I've had this argument a few times before, having a first floor balcony right up against neighbouring residential properties' side boundaries, in no world is that ever correct in my view. That it will completely destroy the private amenity space of the houses on the back. I forget the precise addresses, not sauce for the goose. The other point, which is not properly, the letter sort of explained it, but it wasn't properly set out, is that the actual house that the applicant lives in, or the complainant lives in, the rear entrance to her garden is in this application site. And where we're proposing to put a car space is where she would go in or out of her garden. So I have real questions as to whether the architect has actually been to the site. I mean, maybe he has, maybe he hasn't. But that just seems a very basic thing, and there's just so many things that I think need further consideration, and I hope that my colleagues across the side, on the other side, where I'd quite like to be, will look at it in the round and agree that I think we can do better. 2 stories is too much. 2 one-story dwellings, I think, would be fine. Yeah, as I say, I don't want to keep raking over old ground, but I think the presentation we got, we can do better. Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Unfortunately, Mr. Ho, you've had your 3 minutes, so you can't actually come back to us. Mo, did you want to answer anything?
Just to touch up on the boundary element, the speaker, I believe, leaves at number 13, which is under the ownership of the council. And I do have a plan, just to indicate the ownership. So you can see the area highlighted in pink is within the ownership of the council, including number 13 over here. Now, including 11 over here, this part is within the ownership of the council.
He's talking about 11.
The speaker is from... No. I don't believe it has, no.
It's in accordance with the plan.
It has any...
No. There's the plan.
So there's number 11 over here. The parking space starts from here.
So it's still access, yeah?
Yeah.
You cut rear access. There's no ifs or buts, you cut rear access.
What with the tree? What with the bush?
You've got a parking space in front of where she would go in or out of her farm. Or he would go in or out of her farm.
Right, I think you... Have you... Sorry?
You want to turn your microphone on when you speak?
He was talking about number 11, wasn't he?
Yeah, number 11.
So I think you've answered it.
I'm sorry, but to go over it, it's pretty obvious. If you flip that round the other way, you can see there's a rear door that goes into that house's garden. And whether ownership is or isn't part of planning, I'm not sure. But I think we can all agree that you've put something over someone's rear access. It's not correct.
could come on the
Yeah, but it's a land ownership issue.
Right, members.
And it's only a pedestrian
Councillor
access, not a
Hollywood.
vehicular access, is it?
Thank you, Chairman. I have to say, actually, I think it's disappointing we don't have a housing officer here in person this evening. One, as Councillor Kaufman quite rightly said, it's a scheme which is going to affect the residents who live around it and deserves to be represented properly. But also, it's an important scheme in terms of providing affordable housing, council housing, for local people. So I'd just like to put on record my disappointment this evening that we haven't had that clear presentation in person, which I think is important. I've seen sites like this work. We have done garage sites all across Epping Forest. They are challenging, you know, brownfield sites are challenging. We're looking at the narrow access, and there's something very similar in North Weald to the Cyril Hawkins Court development just off Queen's Road, which was challenging to implement but did work. On the point of the rear access, can officers clarify whether that's an established rear access? Does the tenant have, is that an agreed agreement between the council and the tenant in terms of the rear access? I would also say it's not particularly clear from the report what level of consultation there has been. Certainly when I was historically the Cabinet Member for Housing, because these sites are so complicated, there was good consultation between local people, local councillors, before getting to the stage where we would be at a planning application. So I would just like some clarity on the consultation process for this as well. It's a balanced one for me. I can see the challenges around it with the height and the access, but I have seen it work on very, very similar sites. And you kind of look at these sites, one down Centre Drive in Epping as well, and you think, oh, that would never fit it. But then it does, and it does work. So a balanced one for me. But if I could get some clarification on the rear access question and also on the consultation question, thank you.
In terms of the access, it will be an arrangement with the housing team. I don't have the details before me, but it would be a matter between the housing team and number 11 in terms of what access they have through the council's land. In terms of
the consultation.
In terms of any consultation prior to the submission of a planning application, again, I don't have the details before me, but during the course of the planning application, there was consultation with local residents.
Councillor Riskin.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm not going to repeat all of the reasons why I think it's too big on too small a plot. I don't think we should be considering putting large-scale block patterns against a neighbouring fence. That's unreasonable. And yes, there's need for housing, but I don't think it should be to the detriment of those who are currently in the area. There is another similar approval on a site also in Loughton where it was for 2 small bungalows, which is far more appropriate and in keeping with the setting.
Thank you. Councillor Lisa Morgan.
Thank you. Councillor Riskin just highlighted one of the points I wanted to say about the previous application with the bungalows. The width of the road is very small and couldn't work out where the bins would go on bin day. So could you just tell me the actual width of the road coming in and out, please, first of all?
I'll have to measure that.
Yeah, could you, please?
You've turned your microphone off.
Oh, sorry, I'll press it twice. It doesn't seem wide enough for the emergency vehicles, and I did hear them say about the sprinklers and things, but I have been to this site, and it is a couple of sprinklers on a 2-storey building. I don't think will work very well, but not only that is the fact of the first floor balcony overseeing the people in, is it Chester Road or Chester Close, or right behind them. I have a real concern about that, and I think when we looked at the other site in Loughton, that's why it was looked at and decided that bungalows would be better. So I'll just wait to see how wide the access is, please.
Right. Councillor Matthews.
Thank you, Chair. Difficult one, this, because I completely agree there is a need for it. It's a site that ticks the box, although I completely agree with the representations made so far from the Ward Councillor and from Loughton Town Council that this isn't a suitable design. My issue is solely with the design. I have got issues with the car parking, but I can see that it is policy compliant. I can never get my head around how we can develop sites, and these sites can have such low parking, particularly only one disabled bay, which again is policy compliant with this number. But if there's two residents there that happen to need a disabled bay, then we've immediately got an issue. So my concerns are with the design. All the other points are policy compliant. The design, I agree, obviously to get to this point is deemed as policy compliant, but I don't think it is suitable whatsoever. I like the fact that they're trying to design something environmentally friendly and sustainable, etc., but the impact this will have on residents around it is not suitable. And I'd be inclined to agree with my fellow councillors that a smaller bungalow scheme or something like that would be far more suitable in this particular area. So unless I can hear something to the contrary, I'm really not a fan of this at the moment.
And just to clarify the access, so it measures 2.8 metres, so there's sufficient space for private vehicles to go through. In terms of access for emergency services, that is a building regulation matter. As mentioned in the fire service response, you can have sprinklers within the dwellings themselves. Just to touch on the potential overlooking issues to neighbouring properties, this has been considered. Officers do consider there is harm, but the harm is limited. It's not of a significant impact that justifies a reason for refusal that could be defended, and a planning balance needs to be applied here. We have, disused garages being demolished and used for 4 affordable homes to help the council deliver, the housing needs within the district. So there's a planning balance that needs to be had in terms of considering the whole scheme.
Thank you. I used to live fairly near this, know it quite well. Am I right in assuming at the moment there is access to the site from Chester Green, and in the plans of the houses where everything's going, I'm assuming that access has disappeared and the only access will be from Castell Road?
There's only a single access point from Castell Road.
There is?
Yeah,
just
only
one?
just one.
So the other one is being removed?
There is no second access.
Always used to be.
Yeah.
The other point was we're talking about reusing these garage sites, but what we did, because I was many years ago when we were looking at a lot of these, we were looking at the usage of these sites, and if it was over a percentage then it was fine, but if it was down to about 30–40% and there was suitable alternate accommodation for the garage sites, then it did become a suitable property or a suitable area for development. Do we know what the usage is on this site?
I've been told the garages are vacant. They're not in use.
All of them?
Yeah.
Sorry, I think Councillor Kaufman.
It was only
I'll allow you to come back.
It was only going to be a quick one, Chair. I picked up the reasons we can defend. We're not actually saying that if members were to turn this down, that the council is going to appeal against itself.
Thank you. Right, councillors, the application is to approve with conditions. All those in favour?
None, Chairman.
All those against?
6, Chairman.
Abstentions?
2, Chairman.
Thank you. Reasons for not granting as recommended. Would somebody like to propose? Councillor Matthews.
Inappropriate design and adverse impact on neighbouring properties. Be the two reasons. Overbearing.
I'll certainly agree with the overbearing neighbouring properties. Seconder for that? Councillor Sharif. Reasons for refusal as quoted or as stated? Do you want to come back? Yeah.
Can I just clarify in terms of the impact to neighbouring amenities, is it limited to overbearing impacts or overlooking as well?
Scale of the building and proximity of the building and overlooking. Thank you.
Right, so all those in favour? All those against?
None.
Abstentions?
1.
Therefore, that application is refused for the reasons stated. Right, members, agenda item 11 is EPF stroke.
So that... although, I mean, the quality presentation for the proper...
They need to be on mute.
Who?
They just need to be on mute, I think.
Yeah.
I've muted them.
Yeah, he's on mute now.
What was it? Right, so going back to agenda item 11, which is EPF stroke 0039 stroke 25, the Princess of Wales Public House, 41 Westall Road, Loughton, IG 10 2HX on pages 51 to 70. And Mo, you will take us through this.
Thank you, Chair. So item 11 relates to the Princess of Wales pub in Loughton. This application is before this committee since it's a major application on council-owned land. The proposal is for the demolition of the pub, followed by the construction of 15 affordable homes and associated works. So here we have the location plan, the site outlined in red. So it's a corner plot. Here's a view of the pub. Here's the aerial view. So currently there are hoarding across the site to prevent any antisocial behaviour. Here's a different view. And here's a detailed site plan. So we have 2 blocks in an L-shaped manner. So you have block A over here and block B over here. Along with the extensive landscaping, you have communal gardens over here. And the parking space is located over here. Here are the elevations. At the top you have block A. And at the bottom you have block B, which is this one over here. Again, the full merits of the case are set out within the agenda, and I'll just summarize the case. Officers consider the proposal before members is a balanced scheme following the extensive pre-application process by the Council's housing team with planning officers and the urban design team, and therefore the proposed housing mix, layout, scale and design is acceptable and will enhance this corner of the area. The proposal also safeguards the living conditions of neighbouring amenities from any harmful overlooking and overshadowing. It safeguards the highway network along with providing a good level of accommodation for future users with ample internal and external amenity space. There would also be benefits from the occupation of the homes to the local economy. As with the previous scheme, the biggest benefit is making effective use of the site by turning the obsolete pub into 15 affordable homes. Again, these homes would help the local people who are currently waiting for housing and support the council's wider efforts to meet the housing needs in the area. For these reasons, officer recommendation is to grant conditional planning permission. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Joining us on Teams, and we have an objector, Patrick Khan. Can. Sorry, I do apologise. You have
No, it's not an issue.
You have 3 minutes, sir.
You okay? Can I proceed? The initial council investigation of location was erroneous in its assumptions, and the plans were based on that. I would like to propose the applications at least deferred to give time for the council to consider more information. Westall Road is not, as the council originally presented, but it's a highly used road, no more than 7 metres wide outside the site entrance, with at least 3 car accidents in my time at or around the proposed site entrance. Vehicles accelerate to go up the hill from the site. Usually there are 3 cars minimum queuing to exit from Westall Road from 5 AM onwards till 9:30 to get out into Rectory Lane. At school drop-off time, this actual queue can stretch back 300 metres from Rectory Lane down to the public house site. The site covers 40 by 45 metres with a drop curb in both Etheridge Road and Westall Road. Using Westall Road is an entrance which will create an unnecessary safety issue for school children, pedestrians and traffic. Using Etheridge Road meets the safety and access concerns by using a quiet road. People buy cars before property nowadays, as property buyers are now older. The properties will not be appealing with limited parking and will suffer from a limited market if these are going to go on for resale. Already residents in Prescott Drive overspill to park into Westall Road. With that in mind, if this goes ahead, I would like to put forward the proposal for drop curbs for affected residents as part of the development to allow safe egress for the pedestrians in the area without negotiating the influx of cars. The influx and concentration of bodies and properties being considered is questionable when compared to the amount of residents currently in the adjoining space. The local residents affected consist of 2 retired couples, 1 childless couple, 1 elderly single, and the rest are families until the end of the terrace at 35 Westall Road and opposite, where 2 single council tenants are found. Recent residents are having to travel to Traps Hill to register for GP services 1¼ miles away across town with no direct bus service, and there's not going to be too many parking spaces in this development. 3-storey project properties are half a mile away, again, so not in keeping with the area, unless the 3rd floor is situated in the roof void. Speaking as a cyclist, lockable community space for cycles is a nice idea, but waste of money and a target for thieves. Family experience shows they are a target, even in better areas, and locally we use extremely strong locks. The Prince of Wales was a focus for drugs, by locals acting as community for drug distribution that has been minimised, at the cost of our cars being vandalised in retribution and fences kicked down when drug dealers escaped through a police raid on some cuckooing. We want assurances that this aspect will be considered by the council in their plans. If the capacity of the properties was increased by increasing the bedrooms but decreasing the amount of properties, the strain on the locality will be less. We have worked hard as a community in thankful demise of the public house to restore some peace to the area. Please do not introduce facilities which promote a lack of community or a tendency for lawlessness. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Well timed, sir. From Loughton Town Council, we have Carol Davis. Okay, Madam, 3 minutes.
Chairman, members of the committee, I speak on behalf of Loughton Town Council to object to the proposed redevelopment of the Prince of Wales pub, formerly the Clydesdale, a valued community asset. We fully support the need for affordable housing. However, this application fails comprehensively in planning process, public engagement, and most critically in design quality. First, the process. The pub is a protected community asset and its demolition should not proceed without due process. Yet no meaningful public consultation has taken place, unlike other district-led developments. This has denied residents a voice, undermining both transparency and potential scheme improvements. Second, infrastructure concerns. Parking is inadequate. NEP has decided that this is actually substandard, even with a nearby bus route, and local roads are already under heavy pressure. It's on the route to 5 schools, 3 primary schools and 2 senior schools. So reversing out will be really very dangerous. This will only worsen congestion and impact neighbouring residents. Third, the design breaches, policy DM9, high quality design. The scheme is too tall, too bulky and visually overbearing for this site. 2-metre deep balconies, heavily shade rooms, reducing daylight and livability. Stairwells lack windows, compromising both light and safety. The end apartment in Block 2 lacks natural light. It's an obvious fix that's been ignored. Bathtubs against windows raise serious issues for both practical use and privacy. No balcony drainage is detailed, risking water damage, staining and safety concerns. The absence of coping stones on exposed brickwork further invite long-term deterioration. We rely solely on MVHR for kitchen extraction. And relying solely on MVHR for kitchen extraction with no direct vent option is simply poor design. In short, this proposal is rushed, under-consulted, poorly planned and technically subpar. It doesn't meet the standards this district expects, nor what the Loughton community deserves. We respectfully urge the committee to refuse this application and request a more considered, consultative and higher quality proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Once going with the agent, James Ho, joining us on Teams. Again, if you could speak up, sir, and you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Apologies for the sound conditions before. Testing didn't prove anything wrong before. Working with Epping and the Urban Design Officer, we put forward another passive scheme providing 15 affordable homes focused on improving the current conditions of the immediate area and complementing the green strip and Declan Brook offset. The scheme has been assessed and projected to provide 20% biodiversity net gain increase, 10% higher than the national target for all schemes. All proposed units have a minimum dual aspect and designed with sustainable principles in mind, such as natural cross ventilation. Again, we've worked closely with the Secure by Design Officer from Police to ensure a consistent approach across Epping Forest District Council. It has a high opportunity to achieve gold standards and ensure safety and security to the area overall. Contextually, it seeks to reinstate the line of the street along Westall Road and Everidge Road. Architecturally, it draws upon the context use of brick and vernacular roof profiles to contextually sit within the street scene, whilst offering great views to the open spaces. The design takes into account nationally identified flood concerns and integrates that within its long-term provisions, within its architectural, landscape and civil design. This includes high-quality brick boundaries, elevated ground floor levels, specific landscape species, and civil design measures. The proposal provides a wide mix of tenure to serve the community and the green spaces at the front and the rear to provide a vast improvement from the reproposed unoccupied former pub site. The parking beat surveys and recommendations from the Urban Design Officer has been followed for sustainable parking provisions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ward councillors. Councillor Corcoran.
Here I go again. Councillor Davis has shot a couple of my foxes, and there were a couple of points I heard in the objector speaking, which I agree with. They were predominantly concerning the height. I don't know what local vernacular they're looking at. There aren't any buildings of this size or scale in this locality. They're on the Broadway. This is a post-war development of predominantly what we would consider traditional post-war houses. It's not that. That belongs somewhere else. I completely disagree with the parking position. Again, Councillor Davis pointed out the number of vehicles. I think it's quite funny, actually. I think I've closed the page down. But there are fewer parking spaces proposed for this scheme than there is for the scheme we saw before. And on just a rough calculation I made earlier, I think they could be looking at potentially up to 46 cars might be generated by this scheme if people stay there. I mean, we've got a couple of flats with 6 people suggested would be occupying it. There's going to be one hell of a bun fight for the what is it, 6 parking spaces we're talking about. We're not anti-development. Again, this is obviously a site that should come forward. It's not going to be a pub anymore. The world has changed. But there is certainly some sort of argument that it could have a commercial use at ground floor level, potentially with maybe 1 floor of residential. As a good example is the Sainsbury's development on Churchill in Loughton. It works. That is a scheme that generates people go there. It's sustainable. And I do thank them for inviting me and having me on the early pre-app work that was done. But at the time I pointed out that no one's going to be riding a bicycle from the site with the shopping on the handlebars down to the retail park. It's not going to happen. And I think we're just insulting the intelligence of the constituents by going along with this logic. I think it's flawed. And on one of the main first pages, it points out the council's ambitions for the site, which is to be fully parking compliant. And again, North Essex Parking Partnerships say, in their own words, that the scheme is not currently, it doesn't comply. How can we have our own aims for schemes and then not comply with them? It just sets a bad example. Again, as I said with the other one, we can do better. We really can. And I just hope we see sense with this one. Thanks.
Thank you. Did you want to come back on it?
Sure. In terms of policy-wise, it does comply. And officer's view policy does allow reduced car parking in sustainable location. This is a very highly sustainable location, hence the reduced car parking and the additional cycle provision. So it does comply with policy in that regard.
Councillor Wiskin.
I agree with most of which Councillor Kaufman said. I have a question which perhaps you can answer before and look it up. Can you tell us how many objections there actually were? It says multiple objections. I think it'd be useful for all concerned to know how many objections there were rather than frame it that way. I have issues about the design. The scale of it is far too big. It should be 2-storey, matching the rest of the surrounding houses. It's totally out of keeping. The parking is grossly insufficient, and anyone who lives in Loughton, you don't see people cycling. 28 cycle capacity is a nonsense, and it's a tick box exercise which we should be pushing back on that. The reality is it's 15 minutes from the station. People aren't going to be cycling; they'll be getting in motor cars. It's as simple as that.
But there are 40 objections. It's just above where it says multiple objections received. It does state how many there were.
Councillor Lisa Morgan.
Thank you. Having been to the Clydesdale, or Prince of Wales as it is or was, you go down there, the road is chock-a-block with parked cars, and outside the Prince of Wales now, there's lots of parked cars because they come from the local houses. Having a 3-storey building on this estate where every other building there is 2 stories is just ridiculous. It looks a huge overdevelopment. I was really concerned with what I heard about the direct vents for the kitchen areas, that there are none. That goes back to the issue that we spoke to in another meeting about the black fly on the Limes Farm estate because of no direct vents. That concerns me as well. I just think it's too big and too much of an overdevelopment on this site. A 2-storey would be fine. I think a 3-storey, 15 homes with 6 spaces. Yes, it is on the bus route. it is, we had 15-minute walk. It's a good 15 to 20-minute walk to the station. And you want to get on the bus? Great, as long as it's not during school hours, because if it is, you have no chance of getting on there because there's so many school children on there. You just won't get it. It's not acceptable to have only 6 spaces for 15 homes, and it's just too tall.
Councillor Holly Whitbread.
Thank you, Chairman. I think this application is better than the last application, but the design doesn't particularly appeal to me, although I know design isn't strictly a planning reason, and I do feel we have missed an opportunity here in terms of consultation and utilisation of the site. I do think it's a sustainable brownfield site that is well placed for council and affordable housing. I think on balance that I will support this, but I am slightly disappointed by the design. I think it's out of keeping. And the utilisation of the site I think is okay, but again, you know, the challenges around parking will be an issue. Can I ask, will tenants of the accommodation be able to apply for permanent parking? Is there a permanent parking scheme locally?
I'll have to just double check if there is a CPZ in place, but normally they would apply to North Essex Parking Partnership if there was a CPZ in place. I'll just double check.
I was just wondering about not making, if the application was to pass, making sure that tenants weren't eligible for an additional parking space to support existing residents.
There's no allocated spaces.
So at this stage, we can add an informative to advise future users should not have access to any parking space permits, and something the housing team can action should consent be granted.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. It occurs to me, could we put some sort of condition that if this is approved, that the affordable houses are actually retained under development for affordable homes and not follow the pattern which has happened elsewhere with council developments where the affordability was dropped on cost grounds?
It was just for Councillor Whitbread, just to say, to my knowledge, there isn't any permit parking along there and never has been.
Councillor Holly Whitbread.
Thank you for that clarification, Councillor Morgan. Just on Councillor Wiskin's point, just to say that the affordability won't be dropped on these because they are council homes. So these would all be under the affordable council rent. It's a council house development, so we won't drop affordability, and none of them will be used for private usage.
How does that affect the right to buy?
It's all changing, the legislation's changing, and I don't know the ins and outs of it.
Councillor wanting to come back.
Councillor Matthews.
Thank you, Chair. To say I'm uninspired by the design would be an understatement. But that being said, we're looking at a scheme that is policy compliant. It is, you know, I got no objections whatsoever to what is being proposed. You know, I think it's worth echoing some of the comments that have been made this evening that it's disappointing, particularly as this council, that we haven't got representatives here presenting the case in front of us, and I definitely will be taking that feedback back. I think it's a real difficult one, really, because I don't think there's any material reasons to reject it. I think it's the principle of it is correct. As I say, the design is less than inspiring, though.
Councillor Kaufman, do you want to come back?
Thank you, Chair, for letting me come back. I was just going to have one question for Councillor Whitbread, if that was okay. Because one thing that popped up during the pre-app discussion was that I think the housing officer, or whoever it was that was on the scheme, did think that we would be exposed to right to buy on it. I don't know if that's...
We would be, sorry. I was understanding Councillor Wiskin's question as though it would be affordability, but all council houses, due to government legislation, not due to our legislation, our rules are subject to right to buy at the moment.
Yeah, I did ask that question myself of our legal advisor, and it is all being changed apparently.
Yeah, because I understand that the legislation is currently in the process of changing or changed, so I don't know the ins and outs of it. So
it's under review, but my understanding it hasn't been changed yet. And existing tenants, I believe, still have the right, but it might change on the new schemes. But I don't know.
I think it's going to be made harder to purchase on the right to buy scheme. So there's more affordable houses left for that purpose.
Councillor Bassett.
Thank you. I'm going to show my age here. I used to drink in the Clydesdale nearly 50 years ago. You know, it's terrible. Yes, after it shut down, came Prince of Wales and then shut down again, I think this site has always been one which we could see some sort of development on. It's right on the corner plot. I must admit, in looking at the design, I am not happy with the parking on the site. Could they alter the amenity space at the back slightly to make more parking? Because if there's only 6 parking spots, it's going to be a free-for-all for who gets hold of them. And you can't exactly allocate them to individual flats because people will just ignore that, let's be honest. Also, I saw there was an objection from SUDS. Has that been catered for?
We have received no objection from the council's own drainage team, who were satisfied with the submissions.
Just saw that an objection.
Yeah. So the Essex SUDS, they were seeking finer details, whereas the council's internal drainage team were satisfied the finer details can be fleshed out via conditions.
All right, thank you. Yes, I must agree with everyone here. I think that the design is awful, in my opinion, but then I'm not a town planner or an architect. The proposal before you, or the application before you, is to approve with conditions. All those in favour?
4, Chairman.
All those against?
2.
Abstentions?
2.
So therefore that application is approved. Can I ask members of the public if there's anyone left to leave quickly and quietly? Is there any other business?
Thank you. On that one, is it possible to have a condition, just because I'm just conscious of my other ward councillors are struggling terribly with the Fairview Homes schemes with the number of vehicles, that there is some sort of informative put on there about the number of cars that can be, because the estate agents being estate agents.
I think you need to discuss that with the planning officers afterwards. We voted and it has been approved as detailed.
Yeah, you should have raised it prior to the vote, with the condition putting on before then the vote. Sorry.
So I therefore close this meeting at 21:23.